Hi students, this is Mrs. Wilson. I'm here to talk about the basic shapes and how to turn them into forms. I already created a video that showed you a little bit more specifically how to do the cube, and remembering that the main word you need to remember when you're doing a cube is parallel. And I showed how all the horizontal lines need to be going the same direction. The vertical lines are all going straight up and down, and then the diagonals all have to be parallel as well. So parallel for that. And then of course, if we're shading, we've got our dark on the back side, light on the top, and medium when we're shading. Value scale is really important. So we want to move on to the rest of the basic shapes, and I was going to show you how to do that. Ultimately, I'd like you to have a paper that looks similar to this, or you could turn it in with your cube on one sheet, a sphere on another sheet, and so forth. And if your first one doesn't look good, just draw another one on your sheet. You don't have to start a whole new brand new sheet. You could have a bunch of different spheres on your sheet and say, okay, that's my good one, and circle it and say, yep, that's the good one. Or at the end, you can just do a bunch of practices and then try to come up with one final that looks something like this. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and we'll set this one aside, and we'll refer back to it as we are learning the basic shapes. Again, at school, we use a ruler that is a graphing ruler, but since we don't probably have those in your home, we're just going to use a plain old ruler that you have. If you do have an invisible, not an invisible, but a see-through ruler, that would probably be easiest. But in case you don't, I just wanted to use one where I couldn't see through it, because this is maybe what most of you have, or maybe you don't have a ruler at all. Maybe you're using the edge of a notebook or something like that, or a piece of paper, or something that's a little stiffer probably than a piece of paper would work as a straight edge. Doesn't necessarily have to be a ruler. Okay, we're going to save sphere for the end. I wanted to show you how to do pyramid because that's probably the next easiest one to do. So if I'm making a pyramid, basically all I'm going to be doing is making a triangle. So I'm just going to draw my triangle here. And oh, see how that's shorter? So that's where it's helpful to have the see-through ruler. I could have seen that that wasn't quite the same, or I could have just erased, but in this case I just drew it a little bit longer. Okay, so I've got my pyramid. So if you look here, you'll see that there is another line that comes up from the top that goes down, and then I'm going to connect these. Now, the one thing you want to be careful is you don't want to draw this like all the way down to the ground and go across like that. All that does is make another bigger triangle. So we're just going to take from this corner down, but we're not going to make it as long as this line. We're going to make it a little shorter, so maybe like that. Okay, and then I'm simply going to go from here to here. This one's super easy. Just here to here, and you've got your pyramid. Okay, now we'll shade these at the end. Let's just draw the shapes first. So again, you make a basic triangle, come up from the corner, go down, make the line a little shorter at an angle, and then connect the bottom two there. Okay, now the next one is the cone. This one's easy too. So we're just going to, again, make our V like we're going to be making a triangle again. But this time, oh, did it again, that see-through ruler. But this time, instead of going straight across, what I'm going to do is curve this line. So we want to try to do a nice curve. The more curved you make this, the more on top of the shape you're looking at, which we've talked about in the past about bird's eye view, worm's eye view, and so forth. This is just kind of more of a normal view. You're getting more on top of the cone the more you make this more circular and round. But we'll just do just kind of our basic one here like that, and I'll show you how to shade that in just a minute. And then the cylinder is going to be basically you're making a rectangle. So we'll draw a line here. I'm going to move it this way so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to draw a parallel line to it, make sure it's parallel. Okay, now here we need to do parallel lines that are curved instead of straight across, like if I was making a rectangle. So from here to here, I'm going to curve it just like I did here. Okay, and don't be afraid to use your ruler if you want. And now I've got to make this parallel to this up here. So you don't want to make the bottom one really curved and then this one not curved. It should be the same amount of curve or very similar there than what you have here. So it's parallel. And then what you're going to do on the opposite side is just take this and like flip it going the other direction. Again, you don't want it super open. You want it about the same amount of curve that you have on that side to be on that side, like that. Okay, and then the sphere will be the last one that we shade. So basically you can either draw the bottom of something, or I see how I'm pressing really lightly, I'm trying to get a good round, or you could say I'm looking for something round in my room. My water bottle might work. Let me see. And you could actually trace around something round to get that circle to make it into a sphere. All right, so let's go ahead and shade these. On this one, I have the light coming from this side, and we'll just go ahead and continue to do that. So if I have my light coming, unless you're going to draw it from the other page, it's like on this one that I practiced, I had it actually coming from that corner. I guess it doesn't really matter. You can choose, but it's going to depend on how you shade them. It'll just be the opposite. So you can see like on this one, this side was darker, and on this side, the opposite side is darker. Okay, so one thing that I noticed I was doing as I was drawing this one out, I drew this one first, and then I came over here and I was doing my sphere, and then I had black all over my picture because I had it on the side of my hand. So one thing you can do is take like a clean piece of paper and put it on top of the drawings that you've already done to keep those ones clean, so you don't have to go back with your eraser trying to clean everything up. Okay, so the first thing that you need to know about shading, again, is you need to have a light, medium, and dark. And what we call that is a value scale. And we did do a project recently with that where we used pencil and Sharpie, the really skinny Sharpies, and we filled in the 0 to 100% value scale. Some of you got to it and some of you didn't. It didn't just depended if you were done with your last project or not. But basically, what I want you to practice here first is you're going to have like a heavy pressure, and then you're going to go down into light pressure. So basically, if I got heavy here to light here, going down that way, I'm going to use, and I like using the side of my pencil, not the tip. So I'm laying it flat, or I could even hold it like this and do it. I'm going to hold it like this, I think. And then I'm going to press really hard as I can, get it as dark as I can, and I'm going to start taking that down the page. And as I go down, I'm just going to start easing off the pressure on my pencil. And you can see how I'm starting to get lighter and lighter and lighter to where you can barely see it down here. Okay, so practice doing that first. That's going to really help you. And if it seems like you went too light too quick, you can always go back and do another layer. Like I think I want to darken this part up here a little bit. I feel like I went too much. And you should definitely be able to see the difference between your darker and your lighter. Just play with that until you feel like it looks like a good graduation from really dark to really light. Okay, so my sun's coming over from here. This part's going to be the lightest. This is going to be the darkest. Okay, so I'm just going to go dark. And there's two sides of the pyramid that we can't see, because pyramid has 4 sides, right? So this side, maybe the side we see is the lightest side. So maybe I'll do this like a medium. And you're going to notice that when I'm shading this, I'm going up to the point instead of going like across. That makes sense. You'll see what I mean when I get to this sphere. I'll show you what people do with that. On this one, it's not as critical. You can see I went out. I'll just take my eraser at this point and erase that. Okay, now, the cone. So with the cone, you have an area that is lighter. And again, I'm starting from the tip. And it's not lightest right on the edge because of the way that it's curving around. So as it curves back around, it goes back into shadow. So the light is actually on an edge that's not right on the surface. It's going to be the same thing right here. Your lightest part is going to be about right there where I'm putting in these lines, and then the same for your sphere. It's going to be like there, not right on the edge. And that's a really common thing that people that are new to drawing the shapes do. So you can see that here. Here's my light spot where I'm darker and I'm fading into the lighter as I get to that white area. There, the light is coming down from the top, so that stays light. So I'm going to stay on the back side. I'm going to make that dark, dark, dark. And then as I go, I'm going up and down. And each time I'm just going to be going a little bit lighter until I get to that white area. And I don't want to see this line, so I'll probably go back and erase that. And then over here, that's probably not dark, 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 but it's probably starting at a medium and then getting to the light. That's about right there. And of course I can take my eraser. This is a gum eraser, by the way. They're great for drawing. Or a kneaded eraser. I don't know what they're officially called. I think it's a kneaded eraser, but they work really good. You can, when they start to get dirty, you can just take them and pull them apart and put them back together. You can get this at Michael's, or Hobby Lobby probably has them, or online. I feel like this needs to be a little darker back here, so I'll just add that a little bit. Okay, same thing here. So it's good, but see, I'm going to the point. So this is what I was talking about here. This is what I see a lot of people do. So say you have this cone here. People will go like this. They'll start light here, and they'll go something like that, or it doesn't look right. You always want to, they're not like paying attention to the tip. So that way is wrong. You want to always go back up to the tip. And I'm spreading out from the tip. I'm starting to get lighter. And then back to the tip again, to that point there. Okay? Always to the tip. Okay, and then on this one, it's going to be the same thing. So I start from that circle, I'll go out, kind of like that. And as I get back here, this is going to be my darkest, right? So, and then I'm going to, but again, I'm circular. Always going in that circular direction. So a really common thing I'll see, going circular again. Okay. Circles take the longest. Okay, a lot of times what I see here is people will go like this. They'll shade these like this. And see, that looks flat. That doesn't look three-dimensional. So you got to make it curved. And I could spend a little bit more time on this to make it look the way that I want it to, but I don't want this video to get too long. So you can always pause the video, rewind the video, fast forward through the video. If I'm talking too much and you just want to get to the end, fast forward past my talking to get to the part that you need. And at the end, you're going to have something like this. Now, you need to know how to do these basic shapes and how to shade them to do our next project, which is going to be shapes in space. And I will have a lesson on how to do that as well. I believe I already posted it, but I'll create a video to show you a little bit more specifically how to do that, because we'll be drawing spaces using 1-point perspective to make them look like they're being sucked back into space. And then we'll be picking a light source and shading them accordingly. All right. Happy drawing. Post what you've been doing or ask questions along the way.